Does hypnotism actually work? Just before we jump into the episode, I want to let all of you guys know that some of the fans have made a Discord server for the Culture Crash channel. If you want to chat with other fans and meet some new people, then go ahead and check it out. The link to the server is on the screen now, and we'll leave it in the video description for future videos. Hey guys, Culture here. Today we're going to discuss if hypnotism actually works. More specifically, we'll look at the origins of modern hypnotism and the extent of its applications.
I, for one, am a big believer in hypnotism. When I was 7, my older sister hypnotized me into believing I have an older sister.
What? You don't have an older sister?
Exactly!
How is this possible? How are we 30 seconds into this episode and you've already bamboozled me?
It's a gift.
The type of hypnotism you're describing would certainly be powerful, but is it actually possible to completely alter someone's perception of the world for such a long time? Perhaps before we get to that extreme, we should do a little history on where hypnotism came from.
That's right, boys and girls. It's time to crack out those musty old history books, peel back the decaying pages, and try to stay awake long enough to make it through another one of Culture's history lessons. Who needs hypnosis when Culture can just as easily put us to sleep?
Hush up a moment while I lay some history on you. Modern hypnotism started in the late 18th century with a German physician named Franz Mesmer. Mesmer believed in a theory called animal magnetism, which suggested that an invisible force connected all living things, plants included, and that by tapping into this force we could achieve feats such as healing. This theory took on its creator's name in later studies, called mesmerism. Of course, now we use the word mesmerize to refer to capturing or focusing someone's attention, just like in hypnotism.
Whoa! Have you seen this guy? Franz has got a serious double chin going on there. And look at his coy little smile. He knows he's got that rooster dangly chin flap thing going on. Probably got all the German girls.
Fun fact, that dangly thing is called a wattle.
Waddles. Just one of the many reasons chickens are terrifying. Carry on.
Mesmer used this mesmerism in both individual and group therapy sessions to supposedly cure mental problems. His group process involved gathering about 20 people around an object known as a baquette, and under his guidance, channeling the magnetic invisible fluid from the baquette into his patients. Mesmer's demonstrations in France prompted an investigation into his practices, ordered by King Louis XVI in 1784. Among the investigating body was the American ambassador, Benjamin Franklin, who, together with his colleagues, denounced the effects of Mesmer's practices as being the result of imagination on the part of his patients. Mesmer's reputation in France was ruined, but the practice of animal magnetism lived on in performance. One could call this type of show the first example of stage hypnosis.
And thus begins the disgusting pastime of hypnotizing respectable human beings into clucking like a chicken, the lowest form of organism.
Move on, Crash. Move on. One such magnetism demonstrator was Charles Lafontaine, who, apart from having an awesome name, carried on the practice into the 1840s. It was at one such performance in 1841 that Scottish surgeon James Braid became fascinated with the altered state induced in the audience by Lafontaine, whereby the subjects seemed unable to open their eyes. Being a man of science, however, Braid sought to rationalize his observations with the physiological and psychological knowledge of the time. Through experimentation, Braid noticed that holding a shiny or flickering object just above the subject's eyes caused the eyelids to strain and, eventually, involuntarily, drop. Braid came up with a new name for this phenomenon, neuropnology, or more literally, nervous sleep. He later changed the name to hypnosis, referencing the Greek god of sleep, Hypnos. For his research and naming of the phenomenon, James Braid is considered the father of hypnotism.
He's also the father of the mutton chops with comb over combo. Oh my god! You can get an iPhone cover with his stupid face on it! Why the hell would anyone want to walk around with a flabby cheek dandy on the back of their phone? There's no way a single copy of this has been sold. People at home, if you or someone you know owns this iPhone cover, then please tweet a picture of it at us.
Anyway, back on topic, Braid later came to realize that hypnosis had absolutely nothing to do with sleep. Hypnosis is a state of focused attention which decreases peripheral distractions and opens the mind to suggestion. This newfound pliability of the subject held massive therapeutic potential, and Braid's methods for hypnosis caught fire in the French psychological community. Braid wanted to change the name to monoideism to reflect how the subject becomes focused on a single idea, but it was too late. The term hypnosis had stuck.
Wait. So hypnosis isn't just nonsense? I can actually control people by clicking my fingers and whispering in their ear and waving my hands in front of their face. This is amazing! You've opened up a glorious new world of psychological shenanigans to me, Culture. Teach me how to hypnotize and I will kiss the soles of your feet.
Oh, no, get away from my feet, you weirdo. And yes, hypnosis is real, but it's not quite as powerful or straightforward as you may have seen on TV. Experts agree hypnosis exists, but disagree on the exact nature of hypnosis. There are two main theories: altered state hypnosis and non-state hypnosis. Altered state hypnosis puts forth that the subject literally enters a trance-like state, where the conscious mind is disabled temporarily. Non-state hypnosis, on the other hand, holds that the subject still has an active role in hypnosis and is actually working consciously with their hypnotist to achieve an effect. Only now are experts proposing a compromise between the two theories, known as dissociated control hypnosis. Under this model, hypnosis is seen to deactivate the higher or more active control systems in the brain, while engaging the lower or background control systems to alter behavior. So in short, we don't exactly know how hypnosis works.
Well, fat lot of use you are. You're like an untrustworthy seller on eBay, promising so much but delivering so little.
Well, just because we don't know how it works doesn't mean we can't still get it to work. It's like how based on your diet and lifestyle you should be an obese bedsore of a human being, but instead you're skinnier than a runway model.
My Kegel exercises keep me in shape.
I don't think you understand what Kegel exercises are.
Oh, I do. Trust me.
My point is, we know plenty about how to induce hypnosis and the effects of hypnosis, despite not fully understanding what hypnosis is mentally. The 1989 law book, Trance on Trial, defines 20 different attributes that are characteristic of the hypnotized state. Perhaps the most intriguing abilities of hypnosis are increased suggestibility and amnesia. Suggestibility is how uninhibited a person is, how willing a person is to follow someone else's instructions. The theory goes that hypnosis amplifies our natural suggestibility to bring about actions that would otherwise be suppressed by confounding factors, such as social etiquette. I suspect hypnosis would have no effect on Crash since he has no regard for social etiquette anyway.
Dude, can you take a quick look at this pimple for me? There's like something floating in the white part of it, and I don't want to pop it just in case it's a vein or something. You know when you pop a pimple too early and it bleeds? Stuff it. Here goes nothing.
Oh god, at least put the sensor bar up. Case in point right there. Perhaps a more subtle form of suggestion in hypnosis comes from the ideodynamic response. Ideodynamic response is when the suggestion of a concept brings about a physiological change. For example, if you ask someone to imagine sucking a lemon, they will start salivating.
It also works if you ask someone to imagine sucking...
Crash!
What? Sucking a piece of chocolate. Jeez, Culture, you're so perverted.
Thanks, Crash. A subtype of the ideodynamic response is the ideomotor reflex, where a question or suggestion can cause someone's muscles to move involuntarily. The ideomotor reflex is responsible for a bunch of so-called supernatural phenomena, like Ouija boards and the Charlie Charlie challenge. In hypnosis, the ideomotor reflex is exploited to produce quote-unquote involuntary movements in the subject that correspond to a yes or no answer, like raising a finger, for example.
Culture, bounce every time you talk if you think I'm ripped.
Crash, please, you know I'm a bouncy boy. I can't control it.
Whoa, you bounced like 3 times just then. You must really think I'm fit.
Moving on. To me, the most baffling property of hypnosis is amnesia, where subjects can entirely forget what happened while they were in a trance. This can either occur spontaneously during hypnosis, or it can occur after being given direction by the hypnotist to forget events. The latter method is far more effective, disrupting the subject's memory retrieval process post-hypnosis. What's even weirder is a type of amnesia known as source amnesia. Source amnesia means that the subject can recall information learnt during the session, but they can't remember where they learnt it. For example, the hypnotist asks the subject a question like, "Who released the album Lemonade?" The subject says they don't know, and are then informed while hypnotized that it's Beyoncé. Then the subject's trance is broken, and they're asked the same question, responding correctly, but being unable to recall why they know trivia about Sasha Fierce.
How mentally feeble do you have to be to fall for this stuff? I mean, I know I'm not the sharpest bulb in the, Christmas shed. What were we talking about?
Sadly, I actually understood what you meant. Not everyone is equally susceptible to hypnosis, but an individual's susceptibility has little to do with their intelligence. Hypnotic susceptibility can be measured using a checklist of 12 different suggestions. Depending on how many and which suggestions the subject follows, the hypnotist can gauge the subject's susceptibility. Using this technique, researchers have found that susceptibility is relatively equal across a population, but there's 10% at either end of the scale that are highly resistant or highly susceptible. This 10% of highly susceptible people fall into two categories: dissociators and fantasizers. Dissociators disconnect from reality due to past trauma and daydream by blanking out. Fantasizers, however, engage in flights of fancy, often having had imaginary friends as children and being encouraged towards creative play. The common thread here is that both dissociators and fantasizers more easily disconnect from external stimuli, making them highly susceptible to hypnosis.
It'd suck to be one of them. People exploiting you for other people's amusement, making you do and say ridiculous things, tricking you into sacrificing your dignity just for one little laugh. Hey, wait a second!
Oh, please. You know you love the attention. Besides, hypnosis isn't just used to entertain people. There are numerous fields that use hypnotism and hypnotherapy to enrich people's lives. Hypnotherapy can help center an athlete's mind on their goal in competitive sports or help someone to quit smoking. Insomniacs can more easily achieve sleep, and PTSD sufferers can confront their traumas thanks to hypnotherapy. Admittedly though, some uses of hypnosis are a little more dubious in effect. Hypnosis has been used in forensics to recall memories of incidents that had been repressed. The caveat to this superpower is that these memories can be false, artificially constructed recollections of events that either never happened or occurred very differently to how the subject remembers them. A study by Dr. Joseph Green at Ohio State University found that even when warned about these pseudo-memories, a quarter of respondents still made false reports.
But what about the more, shall we say,
devious
uses for hypnotism? Deception, trickery, chicanery. I want to know how to manipulate someone into doing what I want.
The dark arts of hypnosis are too iniquitous for me to describe here, but there have been numerous cases of thieves talking their way into people's pockets. In 2011 in Stavropol, a purported hypnotist was seen on CCTV putting elderly bank patrons into a trance, who would then withdraw money and hand it over willingly. In 2014, a man walked into a bottle shop in North London and performed a series of quick gestures on the shopkeeper, taking his wallet while engaging him in asinine conversation about pregnancy. The shopkeeper reported that he couldn't remember the instant in which the man took the money from his wallet, and only broke out of his trance moments after the robber left. Of course, these stories and others like them have to be taken with a grain of salt, but there is one guaranteed way to make money using these techniques: stage hypnosis.
Lay it on me, big boy. How do I make that sweet cashish by duping idiots into thinking I can actually hypnotize total strangers?
First of all, don't call me big boy. Secondly, stage hypnotism isn't total malarkey. Well, it kind of is, but kind of isn't. Let me explain. Stage hypnotism has practically nothing to do with hypnotism, but it does have a lot to do with increasing suggestibility via a phenomenon known as role-taking. Role-taking was first described by American psychologist Theodore Sabin. In his theory, Sabin proposes that subjects act as if they are hypnotized in order to conform to the role that they are being given by external social sources. In the case of stage hypnosis, the hypnotist and audience members expect a certain response from the subject. It's not that the subject is faking, it's more like a subconscious desire to fill the role. For the hypnotist, achieving this level of comfortability in the subject is a feat unto itself.
So, stage hypnotism isn't real?
Well, it's real. I mean, it's not like the subjects are fakes or anything. I think it's kind of amazing what these performers can get people to do on stage, and what our minds can do when freed from social constructs of normality. But if your question is whether these performers are actually hypnotists, the answer is no. Think of hypnosis as a kind of patter the performer uses to ease participants into the situation and make them more suggestible. Performers will also attempt to pick the best participants from the audience using simple tricks. For example, the performer will claim that only open-minded, intelligent people are susceptible to hypnotism. This is done to avoid pseudo-volunteers, people who want to go up on stage and purposely not play along just to ruin the hypnotist performance or debunk the craft.
Okay, hold up. This doesn't explain the most impressive part of these stage hypnosis shows. My favorite trick is when the performer gets the audience member to act like they're stiff as a board. Then they suspend the guy between two chairs and have another person stand on the hypnotized guy's stomach. So if this is all just suggestion, then how does hypnosis make the guy so strong?
Easy. It's an illusion. It looks way more difficult than it actually is. In fact, anyone could do it. everything the performer does is just a smokescreen to get the audience believing in the power of hypnotism. Before hypnotism, it was animal magnetism, and before that it was probably some other load of hooey.
Well, stop loading me up with hooey and deliver some actual factual knowledge into my ear holes, Culture. How do I hypnotize someone?
Well, there are heaps of hypnotic induction methodologies out there with different purposes, but for today, let's just look at one of the most popular speed hypnosis methods, the Dave Elman induction. There's a link to this process in the description below if you want more details so you can try it out yourself, but let me give you a quick rundown here. Essentially, the Elman induction puts the subject in a trance in about 4 minutes. The hypnotist starts by asking the subject to relax with prompting questions that generate an affirmative answer. The hypnotist wants the subject to feel comfortable in their hands. The hypnotist then performs fractionation, a process where the subject is asked to double their relaxation on cue. The subject associates the downward motion of the hypnotist's hands with descending deeper into a trance. You probably already knew this from shows and movies, but everything about trances is always down or lower or descending. Language and tone are also incredibly important in these inductions. The hypnotist then checks the subject's hand by lifting and dropping it. If the subject is relaxed, their hand will feel limp, and the hypnotist has achieved physical relaxation. The hypnotist then induces mental relaxation by asking the subject to count backwards from 100, with each number saying deeper, relaxed. The goal is to get the numbers out of the subject's head. Once the subject stops counting, the hypnotist confirms mental relaxation by asking, "All gone?" If the subject nods or says yes, then the trance has been induced.
Wow, that was absolute BS. I have never heard such poppycock in my life.
I think it would be interesting to try one day with a professional hypnotherapist though, to see if it actually works. I guess though the whole point is you have to be willing to become hypnotized, to become relaxed. So I guess the answer is, hypnosis does work, but only if you believe in it. Isn't that kind of a magical idea, Crash?
That's dumb. I prefer things that work 100% of the time, like chloroform. Hasn't failed me yet.
You know, sometimes your weirdness is endearing, but other times it's downright off-putting.
Yes, I'm aware. That's why I need the chloroform. Have you not been paying attention?
I really should be getting out of here. See you all next week. If you enjoy what we do here at Culture Crash, please consider supporting the show via our Patreon, where we have a bunch of awesome rewards, or by checking out our online store. All links are in the description below.